Every civilization leaves a door someone forgot to open. This is case file number 3. The story begins in 1963 when an enterprising homeowner on the outskirts of Nevşehir decided that his foundation required reinforcement rather than simple repair determined by necessity. The laborer swung pickaxe against what he believed was solid bedrock and instead shattered into a dark void beneath their feet, revealing not rubble but a perfectly preserved corridor descending deep into them past wooden spiral staircases carved directly from soft volcanic ash that had settled thousands of years prior to harden yet remain workable for ancient hands who understood the geology better than modern engineers could comprehend. As they walked deeper through layers of history where ventilation shafts functioned like lungs and cisterns stored water against sieges with an efficiency that defies simple explanation. Some researchers speculate these depths were designed not merely to hide from invading armies, but to create a self-sustaining microclimate capable of sheltering thousands simultaneously while remaining completely unseen on the surface above them during times of chaos and war when visibility was emerged into vast communal halls illuminated only by shafts of sunlight piercing through ceiling holes originally dug for airflow yet serving as natural skylights that allowed residents to trek seasons without ever leaving their protective shell. It becomes clear this structure represents a masterclass in survival engineering where every tunnel connects to neighbors and every room serves a dual purpose, blending domestic life with military defense into a seamless architecture built on the principle that when civilization collapses you did not build higher but dig deeper, ensuring 20,000 souls could vanish beneath feet of strangers leaving no trace unless they chose to open the door themselves. Beneath the surface of Derinkuyu is a geological marvel that defies simple explanation, revealing a labyrinthine network carved into solid basalt rather than built upon it. The sheer scale of this underground metropolis becomes immediately apparent as one descends through its 18 distinct levels, plunging roughly 85 meters below ground level to reach living spaces bathed only in filtered sunlight from massive ventilation shafts and water wheels positioned at the surface. Each step deeper into the earth uncovers a different function within this sealed ecosystem, where stables for hundreds of livestock share walls with wine presses that once fermented grapes essential for survival, all connected by narrow corridors designed to withstand seismic activity or sudden enemy incursion. Shelter. These subterranean chambers formed a complete society capable of sustaining itself in total isolation from the world above. Archaeological evidence suggests an estimated population ranging from several thousand up to 20,000 individuals who called this place home for centuries, living alongside their cattle and horses within rooms that were simultaneously dwellings, storage facilities, and places of worship. Chapels carved directly into the rock stand silent witnesses to religious life continuing uninterrupted even when the surface cities burned or fell under siege, while vast cisterns collected rainwater through gravity-fed systems ensuring no drop went wasted during prolonged droughts or blockades that threatened to strangle the civilizations. Some researchers speculate about how such a complex could have been maintained without modern machinery, pointing instead to generations of skilled artisans working in unison under the guidance of experienced elders who knew every stone's purpose by touch alone. The air grows cooler and more still with each descent, creating an atmospheric tension that hints at both human ingenuity and ancient feuds buried deep within the earth itself. While no single conspiracy or alien involvement taints this history, the sheer density of life preserved beneath these layers invites a quiet reverence for a people who chose safety over comfort, transforming their greatest vulnerability into an impenetrable fortress where time seemed to slow down long before cameras were ever invented to capture its understand how thousands of souls could breathe in darkness for centuries without modern ventilation. One must look to the sheer scale of the shafts etched into the rock face. Over 50 vertical wells were carved directly from the bedrock, plunging down hundreds of feet with dizzying precision that defies ancient limitations. These are not mere holes. They function as a colossal lung system for an entire city buried beneath the Anatolian plateau. Some of these conduits extend more than 55 meters deep, reaching so far below ground level that sunlight never touches their floors yet manages to penetrate all levels above them through the subterranean. Physics governing this ancient engineering relies on simple atmospheric principles executed with remarkable consistency over millennia. As cool air sinks down the deepest shafts due to density differences, it creates a natural draft that pulls stale air up and out of upper chambers where fires burned or bodies rested. This passive circulation network operates entirely without fans, pumps, or electricity, utilizing only the temperature gradients between the deep earth and the surface atmosphere. Archaeologists have documented evidence suggesting these systems remain fully functional today. If one were to seal off an entrance on a hot summer day while opening another on a cold winter morning, Air would continue to flow naturally through this complex without any mechanical assistance required from humanity. Some researchers speculate that such intricate planning might hint at knowledge lost to time or civilizations far more advanced than currently understood by historians. The most grounded explanation lies in desperate necessity and collective ingenuity facing existential threats. The sheer density of these shafts indicates a community willing to sacrifice generations of safety for breathable survival against invasion and plague. There is no mystery here regarding extraterrestrial intervention or mythical races hiding below. Instead, there stands a testament to human adaptability where the architects turned fear into a blueprint that allowed 20,000 people to live in shadow while breathing freely. The silence of these tunnels today is only broken by the wind rushing through openings still open after 3 millennia, proving that their breath was never truly extinguished by time or siege. Inside one of the underground levels and witness engineering that defies simple explanation. Massive round stone doors designed to seal entire sections against intrusion. These discs are not merely decorative. They are functional fortifications, crafted from durable granite and fitted perfectly into circular apertures within the rock walls. Each door measures approximately 1.5 meters in diameter, a circumference wide enough for a person, but narrow enough to be manipulated with leverage systems built directly into the ceiling above. The sheer weight of these monolithic stones is staggering, estimated by geologists at hundreds of kilograms each. Yet they were installed without modern machinery or steel reinforcements that would leave traceable marks on surroundings. The mechanism behind their operation reveals a profound understanding of physics and human coordination by ancient builders. Unlike standard gates that swing outward to allow access from both sides, these discs roll freely only when pushed against the rock face from within the chamber. Once positioned over the opening, they create an absolute barrier. No one can pull them open or force entry from outside once sealed on this side of history's forgotten depths. Photographs taken by modern survey teams confirm that friction locks and counterweight pulleys hidden in adjacent galleries allowed a small group to maneuver these heavy obstacles with surprising ease. This design ensures total isolation, turning any breached section into an impenetrable vault while maintaining internal connectivity through narrow vertical shafts leading upward or down the multi-layered. Some researchers speculate that such robust sealing mechanisms were necessary not just for defense against invading armies during turbulent periods of Cappadocian history, but perhaps also to protect inhabitants from catastrophic surface events like volcanic eruptions or sudden floods. The ability to close these doors instantly and keep them shut indefinitely suggests a society prepared for prolonged isolation where external communication was severed completely until conditions stabilized above ground. There is no evidence of magical incantations or supernatural forces involved. Rather, the terror lies in the cold reality that once those stones were lowered into their sockets by desperate hands centuries ago, they effectively trapped everyone inside with nothing but stone and silence separating them from the world outside. The landscape of Cappadocia tells a story that stretches far deeper than mere bedrock layers suggest. Excavations reveal evidence of continuous habitation and strategic expansion spanning from the Phrygian era through the Byzantine period, indicating that this subterranean complexity was not built overnight but evolved over centuries. The exact identity of its original architects remains shrouded in academic debate. While some point to local cave dwelling traditions inherited from Hittite times, others argue for distinct construction phases driven by shifting political pressures. Archaeologists struggle to pinpoint a single first-use date because the site likely functioned as an interconnected system long before it reached its final depth of nearly 100 meters. The impetus for sinking so deep into the earth was undoubtedly survival against human predation rather than geological necessity or mystical fear. Historical records and archaeological strata suggest that Derinkuyu served primarily as a refuge during periods of intense raiding, offering protection for nomadic tribes such as the Mongols who swept across Anatolia in the 13th century. However, beneath these threats lay an equally pervasive danger: religious persecution. As early Christian communities flourished under Roman rule and later faced Ottoman expansionism, the underground city provided a sanctuary for believers fleeing forced conversions or violent oppression. The presence of separate quarters with different architectural styles within the same structure supports the theory that it accommodated diverse groups seeking safety from external threats at various points. Some researchers speculate that the sheer scale of these tunnels indicates an organized response to repeated crises rather than isolated incidents, suggesting a community united by a singular need for absolute security. The design itself reflects this pragmatic urgency. Ventilation shafts connected directly to surface churches while hiding escape routes behind false walls, creating a labyrinth where no outsider could navigate without local guidance. Even the most cynical observer must acknowledge that building such an elaborate fortress required immense collective will and resources, driven by the terrifying reality of living in a region where betrayal or discovery meant death. The silence found beneath the earth today is not merely peaceful. It preserves the echoes of those who chose to vanish into darkness rather than face certain violence above ground, leaving behind a testament to human resilience. Derinkuyu stands as one of the most complex and deepest urban centers known to history, but it was never an isolated fortress in total darkness. Excavations reveal that this subterranean metropolis did not exist in a vacuum. Rather, it formed part of a vast regional network stretching across central Anatolia. The existence of other massive underground cities like Cappadocia is well-documented archaeological fact, and historical records suggest these communities were linked to facilitate the movement of refugees fleeing Roman persecution or later invasions by Byzantine forces. While we can confirm that both Derinkuyu and Cappadocia function as independent shelters with their own ventilation shafts, storage rooms, and places of worship, the idea of a seamless corridor connecting them remains one of the region's enduring mysteries for travelers. The tunnel purportedly linking these two giants is often depicted in popular media as a direct highway between safety zones. Yet archaeological mapping tells a more nuanced story. Surveyors have identified sections where passageways seem to converge or diverge near the surface, particularly around limestone karst formations that naturally fractured over millennia. Some researchers speculate that ancient builders utilized existing natural fissures and collapsed tunnels to create shortcuts between major settlements, effectively stitching separate cities together with stone and earth when needed most. However, current surveys have not provided a continuous, mapped route proving a stable, walkable connection beneath the entire distance separating them. Gaps in evidence leave us uncertain exactly how far one could travel before emerging from Derinkuyu, only to find oneself still underground in Cappadocia or facing open air entirely outside the city limits. Geophysical scanning continues to probe these depths for answers that history books cannot provide, revealing a landscape where human engineering blurred with natural geological instability. What remains certain is that the threat necessitating such elaborate planning was genuine and pervasive throughout Cappadocia's turbulent past. Whether the link between Derinkuyu and Cappadocia represents a deliberate architectural achievement or an improvisational survival tactic born of necessity changes little regarding their shared purpose: to ensure collective safety when violence threatens above ground. As explorers navigate these shadowed corridors today, they walk through spaces designed for panic-induced escape routes rather than leisurely tourism, reminding us that beneath this serene landscape lie layers where community meant sharing life in total darkness with neighbors whose names may never be fully recorded by history yet, who undoubtedly saved each other's lives time and again. Historians won't confirm. Here's what if beneath the current excavation limits lie secrets too vast for a single map to contain. Some researchers speculate that Derinkuyu was never an isolated fortress, but merely the visible tip of a submerged iceberg, connected by deep, sealed shafts to other Cappadocian cities like Cappadocia and Archaeology. The idea suggests a coordinated, deliberate erasure from official records, where builders intentionally left these lower levels unmapped or unstable to prevent future discovery. If true, the entire region would have functioned as one massive, interconnected subterranean metropolis stretching miles beneath the surface of central Anatolia. Posits that the ventilation shafts and cistern systems we see today were only a fraction of a grand design, with hidden passages linking distant refuges to share resources during prolonged sieges or plagues. Imagine a network so extensive that moving from one city-state below ground felt like traveling between adjacent rooms in a single building, yet above ground they appeared as separate villages miles apart. The sheer scale required for such connectivity implies a level of planning and labor organization far exceeding what typical historical accounts acknowledge, suggesting a society capable of executing projects on a geological timescale that defies simple explanation without invoking extraordinary intent or foresight from their ancient architects. We must remember this remains pure speculation, unverified by archaeological evidence until the dust finally settles in places no human has touched for millennia. The silence beneath Derinkuyu is heavy with possibility, but also caution. Pushing too hard against unknown geological barriers could collapse centuries of history into ruin before our eyes have even adjusted to the darkness. Perhaps the reason these depths remain sealed is not mere accident, but a final act of protection by those who knew that some doors should stay shut forever. Until then, we are left with shadows and stories where fact fades into rumor, reminding us that the earth still holds mysteries it chooses to keep hidden from our curious decades of excavation efforts. Large sections of Derinkuyu remain buried beneath the Anatolian earth and are strictly closed to public access. The sea's true depth is uncertain, while visitors descend through winding staircases into levels marked by numbered doors. These guided tours only scratch the surface of what lies below. Archaeologists estimate that over 100 distinct underground chambers have been identified, yet satellite imagery suggests massive networks of tunnels extend far beyond our current map. Whether these passages lead to a final, sealed chamber or simply vanish into deeper strata remains an open question for specialists worldwide. The sheer volume of unexplored space invites speculation about how many families might still be sleeping in the dark if history took a different turn. But science insists we must wait until geology permits. The historical timeline of this subterranean metropolis is equally contentious among researchers who study ancient migration patterns and seismic activity in the region. While traditional accounts attribute its construction to the Phrygians fleeing Assyrian invasions around 700 BC, carbon dating techniques on certain layers suggest some parts may predate these early civilizations by several centuries. Conversely, other scholars argue that portions of the structure were modified during later periods of conflict, effectively erasing original architectural markers and complicating any single narrative. The lack of definitive written records from within the city itself means we rely heavily on oral tradition and fragmented pottery shards to reconstruct its story. Until new evidence surfaces to settle these dates, Derinkuyu stands as a monument not just to survival, but to our incomplete understanding of human ingenuity in times of crisis. File number 3 wasn't the strangest door we found. Case file number 4 is about caves in China so precisely cut that no record of who built them has ever been found. Some say it shouldn't be opened at all.